Okay, welcome everybody. This is the American Sleep Apnea Association webinar titled Patient-Centered Outcomes and the Patient Voice, How Can Patients Engage? I'm Teresa Schumard, and I'll be presenting today. This is our series of webinars for patients and hopefully some caregivers. And we will be, it's a short presentation. It's not as long as some of the ones that you probably attended, but we like to keep them short to hopefully a lot of people, at least on the East Coast, are having their lunch while we are doing the webinar. So without further ado, let's go to the second slide, please. We'll have a little bit of housekeeping. If you are watching this webinar live, you can type your questions into the chat box at any time during the presentation. At the end, we're going to go over the questions, and we will have an open mic session near the end if time allows. If you're watching the recorded version of this webinar, you can email your questions to asaa@sleepapnea.org. Next slide, please. We are having a little bit of vocabulary before we begin, because you're going to hear a lot about patient-centered outcomes, which are outcomes from medical care that are important to patients. The medical community research focuses on the standard metrics related to survival and physiological outcomes, or how well is the part of the body being treated. In patient-centered outcomes research, or PCOR, the focus is also on outcomes important to patients, such as quality of life. It's a newer field that emerged from the traditions of biomedical and health services research. In other words, the care experience is viewed through the eyes of patients and their support groups or caregivers to ensure that their concerns are addressed. Slide 4, please. Patient-reported outcomes are defined by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration as any report coming directly from patients about a health condition and its treatment. However, in the past, PROs have not routinely been collected in a way that facilitates their use in PCOR. Electronic medical records, disease registries, and administrative data have only rarely been collected or been linked to the PROs. Next slide, please. PCOR facts helps people and caregivers communicate, make informed healthcare decisions, allows their voices to be heard, and also to assess the value of healthcare options. It answers patient-centered questions and defines expectations, options, outcomes, and decisions. Slide 6, please. PCOR focuses on patient needs, preferences, and outcomes most important to them. It helps patients and other healthcare stakeholders, including caregivers, clinicians, insurers, and policymakers, which is a pretty important step. You certainly don't want policymakers making decisions about healthcare without some good research. And the research points straight from the patient on this. So this is the patient's voice being heard. Slide 7, please. because we have such wonderful, technological advancements in recent years, there have been many interesting results regarding the roles patients and caregivers can play in research. There's opportunities for them to share information about themselves in different ways, including medical and mobile devices that allow for electronic data methods in research today. These technological advancements allow for making things possible regarding outcomes in ways we've not had before. So patient-centered outcomes aims to improve care quality and patient outcomes by providing information that patients, clinicians, and family members need regarding treatment alternatives, and emphasizing patient input to inform the research process. PCOR capitalizes on available data sources and generates new evidence to provide timely and relevant information, and can be conducted using prospective data collection, disease registries, electronic medical records, aggregated results from other research in the past, and administrative claims. Slide 8, please. So you hear the term patient engagement, and you also hear patient activation from time to time. The differences are the patient activation is knowledge, skills, ability, and willingness to perform their treatment regimen, perhaps. But patient engagement is a broader concept that combines that activation with interventions. And the patient activation refers to the patient's knowledge and skills, which are really fundamental in your treatment regimen. That you do have that patient knowledge and you've studied. That's very important. It's very important for you to understand. Or if the patient cannot understand, their caregiver or family member or somebody on their support team. Okay. We're going to go to slide 9, and we're going to have a video. It's through an award from the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute, or PCORI. It's an independent nonprofit organization. A team at Johns Hopkins conducted a research study to understand how the lives of people living with rheumatoid arthritis were affected by their condition. So if you want to play that, I will be silent.
You always get better care there because they're always doing research. I felt good before the study, but now I feel really good. My overall experience with research has been overwhelmingly positive.
PROs are important from a patient perspective because it gives them the opportunity to tell their story.
I felt very comfortable with this project and was very excited to see that research was come out of it, so that we are really helping ourselves to understand what it is that's important to patients.
It made me think more about what actually was happening.
They found questions that actually made them think about their disease in different ways.
The questions that they asked are questions that I wouldn't have asked.
Well, having that information fosters communication. It helps patients and physicians talk better to one another. It helps patients to identify the symptoms that they're actually experiencing. And it gives a starting point for the conversation with the doctor about what's important.
I must say that I was not focusing on the details of symptoms that this study made us realize are very important key symptoms of patients with rheumatoid arthritis, such as sleep, anxiety, depression, benevolent pain, fatigue, etc.
My doctor and I communicate really very well together, even more so than we have, and discussing my overall health.
It was also extraordinarily helpful when you sit down with the doctor and he goes over, this is what I see on your printout, and I say, oh, this is what I see on my printout. Our patients feel empowered to manage their own disease and to manage some of these issues in their disease, and that we can be partners in the healthcare system.
The value is being able to take a decision with a patient on the spot. It more control over my health. Yeah. Patient-centered research means that we're going to lean more towards what patients tell us is important. They're not so concerned if their inflammatory marker changed. On the other hand, being able to play with their grandchild, being able to do the things that are important in their life, that's what's most meaningful to them.
As a result of this study, I'm just the best I can be every day. And for that, I'm grateful.
Okay. That was very good. If you couldn't hear it, I can, when you go to, you can go to the recorded version of the webinar and catch the link to that video if you were not able to hear it. That was the PCORI pilot study, integrating patient-centered outcomes in arthritis clinical care. And it got started, what the process was like, what was discovered, and what the patients, doctors, and researchers who took part in the study had to say. Slide 10, please. Dr. Eric Topol is a pioneer, really, in patient-centered outcomes research. And he said, accommodating today's patient user, when individuals become fully respected by their doctors and on an equal footing, when the individual now unabashedly asks the right questions, drives the process, and makes the choices. We're not just talking about medical empowerment. We're talking about medical emancipation. This is a very powerful message. Those of you that have not heard of Dr. Topol, he is an American cardiologist who believes that no matter how the language of the care is changed, we must be aware of the ways in which the culture of healthcare itself needs to shift to accommodate today's patient user who likes to take charge most of the time of his or her own care or treatment regimen. Dr. Topol he was at Scripps in San Diego, and he was selected as one of the 12 rock stars of science, which is pretty amazing. And he is still working today very hard to work on this endeavor. And his most recent book is called The Patient Will See You Now. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's the way he looks at things as a patient, in the patient's eyes. Next slide, please. The American Sleep Apnea Association is very involved in research, in patient-centered research. If you go to sleephealth.org on our website, you can see the Sleep Health mobile app study. You can download everything that you need there, and it tells you about it. But it's an ongoing research study that began in 2016 to understand more about the relationship between sleep habits and daytime function, and can be used by users to keep track of their sleep manually, and allows for objective sleep monitoring by compatible wearables. Some of the different wristwatch pieces, and there you can actually view it on your phone and these kinds of things. I'm going to let Sean give you more information about that. But it's a mobile research study to investigate how your sleep is associated with general health, medical outcomes, daytime alertness, and productivity. The app is part of an exciting new patient-led effort to use the iPhone and the Apple Watch to advance clinical research on sleep and sleep disorders and how they may affect other medical conditions. It's also a personalized tool that helps you gain a greater insight into your sleep habits and your general health and well-being. The Sleep Health team consists of the American Sleep Apnea Association and researchers at the University of California, San Diego. This study is unique in that it is led by patients and allows participants to be equal partners in both the monitoring and the management of their symptoms and the data collected, as well as helping to direct future research by participating in our community. You can go to sleeptember.org and learn more about it. Next slide, please. The overlap study is very exciting as well. The study will compare the effectiveness of patient-centered care methods, web-based peer coaching, education, and support intervention versus reactive care on adherence to oxygen therapies in patients with COPD and sleep apnea. It's funded by PCORI, and it's called Otuverlap. But it's really overlap, but the O2 was put in there cleverly. Will demonstrate the capabilities of the COPD patient-powered research network, the COPD PPRN, and results from the Otuverlap study will provide evidence to shape how healthcare is delivered in the home for patients with COPD and OSA. And the American Sleep Apnea Association and the COPD Foundation partnered for this endeavor and will engage in collaborative activities around the study designed to create more efficient research methods, new tools, and best practices for patient-centered research. And that was written by our friends at the COPD Foundation. There's going to be web-based peer coaching, education, and support intervention. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, the study launches in 2018, and recruitment efforts will begin very soon. So if you have any interest in or just would like to know more about what will take place, please write to us at asaa@sleepapnea.org, and we will get your questions answered or tell you a little bit more about the study. it's a very exciting piece of research. Let's go on to the next slide. This is not necessarily research, but it's research related. The FDA is looking for a group of people to come in and nominate themselves or be nominated by other individuals for what they're calling the CTTI, or the Clinical Trials Transformation Initiative, the Patient Engagement Collaborative. So the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, is acknowledging needs and concerns of patients and caregivers and advocates, identifying ways to better serve patient community, establishing a group of patient organization and individual representatives, and to discuss topics focusing on enhancing patient engagement in medical product development and regulatory discussions at the FDA. Big, important piece for patients to be involved in, because this is going to be the future. And so you would have you being a stakeholder as a patient would do very, very well in something like this. So you can contact the FDA about this at patientaffairs@fda.hhs.gov. Next slide, please. So patients to be considered for the study. It's patients who have personal disease experience, caregivers who have personal experience with a disease by supporting the patient, and a caregiver can be defined as a parent, a child, a partner, family member, or friend. Representatives from patient groups who, through their role in the patient group, have direct or indirect disease experience. Let's see. Let's talk about the next slide. Okay. The PEC will provide an ongoing forum, I should have said this before, to discuss how to achieve more meaningful patient engagement in the medical product development and regulatory discussions. And they're looking to making patient engagement more systematic, how to improve on transparency, how education and communication on the medical product regulatory process can be improved, new strategies for enhancing patient engagement, and new models for patients to collaborate as partners in the medical product development and FDA review process. Patient engagement is a concept whose time has come. And I just saw this the other day on a forum, and it was about this topic. And it says, "Bravo, I admire your courage to be willing to dig deeper into user engagement, to assist users in becoming intentional about their care plan within the context of their everyday lives." Dilly dilly. So, yeah, very, very interesting. And we have the next slide. Do we have any questions? Anyone that would like to speak is welcome to. If you have any questions, we would be happy to try and answer those for you. Sean is here. Sean takes part in all of our research efforts.
Hey, everybody.
Tell us a little bit about the sleep health study, Sean. That's you're very involved in that one.
Right. So, so as Teresa mentioned, the sleep health study is basically it's a large scale mobile research study, the purpose of which is to develop a better understanding about the relationship between sleep habits and daytime function, during the course of people's day-to-day lives. It's probably the largest study of its kind, that's ever been undertaken. As of today, we have over 10,000 active participants. The app launched back on March 2nd of 2016. It's open to everybody who's 18 years or older and a resident of the United States. We definitely encourage all of y'all listening today to, if you have an iPhone, to go ahead and download it. There's a series of questionnaires, one-time surveys, and we kind of have people complete those at baseline, and then ideally 3 months later. And the app can be used on a daily basis. And, in addition to being a mobile research study, you can also use it to kind of track your sleep over time. And as Teresa mentioned, it's primarily self-reported data, but if you have a Apple Health Kit compatible device, you can actually sync that with the app, and there's a dashboard where it will actually display that information for you on the dashboard, and you can kind of keep track of it over time. So I think that's kind of the gist of it. Is anybody on who has any questions about the app itself?
Okay, it doesn't sound like
I think there's somebody. Yeah, I can hear somebody's audio's on, but I don't know if they can hear.
Okay. Well, if we don't have any questions, we will close. And next slide, the last slide, I guess, is what I want to show them. So you can be added to our mailing list for upcoming webinars if you write to us at asaa@sleepapnea.org. That's a great way to keep in touch with our schedule. And we are actually putting webinars on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of every month, and they are always at noon Eastern time. That may vary from time to time just to catch other people that maybe cannot come at lunchtime. Now, we did try it at night, and it wasn't as convenient as this time period, so this time slot. So we're doing this for now. If you have any questions in general, you can, for me, you can also write to me at that address, and I'll be happy to answer. If there are no questions, I will close, and thank you for attending, and thank you, Sean, for helping.
Hey, sure thing. It looks like Carl's on. If he wants to say anything.
He is on. Okay, Carl.
Yeah, I was on and listening, just at the emergency room with my daughter, so I wanted to sneak away real fast and just say that one big advantage of the Sleep Health mobile app is it really helps change the way we can do research, because we can actually use people's own phones and send surveys and do research in a completely different way. So if anyone's on who's interested in participating, we'd love to have you. And we're just really excited about the mobile app study that we were able to get out there on the App Store. And I guess I just had one quick question for listeners who are still on, and that is, has anyone ever participated in research? And if so, would be interested in hearing your stories, and if not, would be interested in hearing why not too.
Oh yeah, that was one thing that I didn't mention, was actually of our sample, very large, it's like 70 more than 70% of our sample had never participated in a research study before. So that was one thing that you just reminded me of, Carl.
Yeah, we were really impressed by that because most research studies require going into the lab or clinic and quite a time, but by doing it this way, we get people who have never participated before. What did you say, Sean? It was upwards of 70% of people who had never participated in research before. So we were pretty impressed by that.
Right, yeah, around 71%.
And Carl, can you tell us a little bit about the overlap study? We did have a couple slides. I don't know if you heard that part or not, but we were talking about that recruitment is getting ready to begin on that study.
Yeah, it's undergoing IRB approval right now and hoping to launch on the 15th. And we're excited about that one. That one's for folks who are diagnosed with both sleep apnea and COPD and who are prescribed and using a CPAP device. And what we're trying to do is figure out better ways to provide information and education in online platform and using peer coaches. So I think the slide had the homepage to find out more information about if folks are interested or they might be interested.
Yeah, or if you know somebody with both conditions, that you could share the information with them. That would be great because, they may not have attended or read something about it. Let's see. Yeah. You can contact us there. Well, if we have no more questions or comments, then I will say thank you for joining us, and we will see you on the second Wednesday of January 2018. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.